Welcome back to the series. Today is part 2 of The Shadow Behind the Door. This is going to be a scary story. So if you're scared easily, don't watch this alone. If you're new here, welcome. Let's get into the story. It's early in the morning and the house is empty. The only thing that can be heard is the wind blowing through the trees outside. Suddenly, a car pulls up to the curb. The engine turns off and a young man gets out. He walks up to the front door and pushes it open. Inside, the floor is covered in muddy footprints leading up the stairs. He calls out for his cousin. When he doesn't answer, he goes upstairs. As he makes his way down the dark hallway, we see the words, "I have returned," written in blood on the wall next to an old picture frame. In the photo, we see the same young man smiling next to his grandfather. The photo was taken inside the same house. Suddenly, the camera zooms into the bloody words on the wall. Meanwhile, the young man continues walking. He's oblivious to what's happening. Every mirror in the house has been smashed and is on the ground. Then he hears a whisper. It says, "Leave before it's too late." He stops and listens. Was it his imagination? He thinks not. The whisper says it again, but this time louder. "Leave before it's too late." He walks a little further down the hall. Then suddenly he sees something. It's a shadow darting back and forth in the room ahead. He thinks it's just his imagination, but when he takes a step forward, the shadow disappears. He can't see it anymore. "Hello," he calls out, his voice echoing through the empty house. No reply. He walks into the room where he saw the shadow. Nothing. He checks under the bed and in the closet. He opens the window and steps out onto the balcony, but it's gone. Just then, the whisper says, "Leave before it's too late." He sees a piece of paper on the floor. It's a torn page from an old diary. He goes downstairs and flips through the pages until he finds the date on the torn page. It's a story about his grandfather. According to the diary, the house used to be filled with laughter and joy, but a dark secret lurked in its shadows. The grandfather was writing about a curse that had been cast upon his family. One day, while exploring the attic, he found an old wooden box with strange symbols scratched into the wood. Unable to resist his curiosity, he opened it and unleashed a demonic entity that brought nothing but pain and suffering to those around him. As the story continues, we learn that the entity could only be summoned during the night when the moon was full. It would take the form of a shadow and hunt down members of the family, draining their life force and leaving them cursed for eternity. The grandfather had tried everything he could think of to stop it, but nothing worked. The only thing that seemed to weaken it was the strange symbols he had seen on the box. So he made a plan. He wrote down the symbols in his diary and hid it somewhere in the house, believing that one day someone would find it and use it against the creature. Suddenly, the lights flicker and go out. The full moon shines in through the window, casting long shadows around the room. Just then, the whisper says, "Leave before it's too late." Startled, the young man drops the diary and runs to the window. The shadow is back. It's standing on the other side of the lawn and seems to be staring right at him. Outside, the wind begins to pick up. Leaves are swirling around and the temperature drops several degrees. The young man runs back to the diary. He looks through the pages, frantically searching for the symbols. He finds them and quickly writes them down on a piece of paper. Clutching the paper in his hand, he runs outside. The shadow is still there watching him. He turns and runs down the street, the shadow close behind. He runs as fast as he can, but the shadow is keeping pace with him. He can feel its cold touch on his neck and hear its raspy breathing in his ear. Just then he sees the front gate. It's locked. He pounds on it with his fists, but it won't open. Suddenly, he feels a sharp pain in his leg. He looks down and sees that the shadow has scratched him. Blood pours out of the wound. He turns and runs back to the house. The front door is wide open. He runs inside, slamming the door behind him. It hits the wall with a loud thud. He leans against the door, trying to catch his breath. As he looks around, he notices that all the doors and windows are slamming shut, one by one. He tries to call out for help, but his voice is hoarse and no sound comes out. The shadow is at the front door now, scratching and clawing at it, trying to get in. Suddenly, the lights flicker and go out. Only the sound of the wind and the pounding of his heart can be heard. Then he sees it. The shadow is at the window now, its face pressed against the glass. Its eyes are glowing red in the darkness. It's trying to get in. He runs to the window and pulls the curtains closed, but the shadow just pushes its way in. The young man runs away, but the shadow is faster. It catches him and knocks him to the ground. He looks up at it in terror as it leans over him, its eyes boring into his. Then it opens its mouth and lets out a blood-curdling scream. The young man screams back, but no sound comes out. The shadow's eyes flash red as it lunges at him. Suddenly, he remembers the symbols. Quickly, he draws them on the floor with chalk. The shadow screeches to a halt. For a moment, it hesitates, then lunges forward, knocking the chalk away. The young man closes his eyes, waiting for the worst. But instead of feeling pain, he hears a loud crack. He opens his eyes and looks down. The shadow is shaking violently, its form beginning to distort. The young man watches in amazement as the shadow's eyes flash red, then explode. The lights flicker and explode, one by one, and then everything goes black. The young man's breathing can be heard, then silence. Suddenly, light streams in through the window. The young man stirs and opens his eyes. He's lying on the floor, but everything looks normal. The shattered mirrors are gone, replaced by new ones. The walls are freshly painted. He sits up and looks around. Where's the shadow? He doesn't know. He checks the front door. It's unlocked. He steps outside. The morning sun shines brightly. Birds are singing in the trees. He looks back at the house, but he doesn't see anything unusual. Everything looks normal. He walks down the street, still feeling a bit shaken by his experience. But as he rounds a corner, he bumps into a woman. She's smiling, her eyes twinkling. "Well, hello there," she says. "You must be lost." He shakes his head, confused. "Where am I?" he asks. "Why do I feel like I've been here before?" The woman looks at him for a moment. "You're in the town of Havenwood," she says. "But why do you feel like you've been here before? Have you lost your memory or something?" He shakes his head again. "I don't know," he says. "But I have a strange feeling that I'm forgetting something important, something terrible." The woman places a hand on his shoulder. "Well, if you can't remember, then it must not be important," she says. "Come on, let me show you around town." She walks away, leaving the young man standing alone on the sidewalk. He looks down at his hands. They're shaking. He looks up and sees a black hand reaching out and gripping his shoulder. He screams and falls to the ground. The screen fades to black as the sound of his heartbeat can be heard. That's the end of part 2. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, please leave a like. I'll see you next time.